What you think? You gonna move up there?
No, I don't. Not right now. I mean, if it was, if it turned into something different, like right now the contract I'm on is fairly small. So if it turned, into something different, but I'm definitely like chasing my own.
Mona reveals the details of her contract with Joe Budden and also addresses the comparisons between her and Melyssa Ford. So for those of you that don't know, Mona joined a podcast and she went on an interview and discussed her integration into the Joe Budden podcast. It was the Comma Club, I believe. So check that out. I'll leave the link in the bio and you can check out the whole thing. But what she said that was very insightful was she said her contract with Joe Budden was fairly small. Now, I was shocked at that because on one of the episodes, I think her first episode as a full-time co-host, she said that she got the bag.
Bag, too.
I talk. Shout out to her. I think she deserves it. But that's
Now, is this a contradiction? Is she trying to present on air in a different way? What does she mean by fairly small? I assume Joe paid her a pretty penny to be down with the show. I mean, she was the apple of his eye. And Mona also said she's chasing her own. So that means she's trying to get more bags. Plus, she hinted, well, she didn't hint, she left Breakbeat Media. She announced it on the show, which was a big deal. I was wondering about her deal with Breakbeat Media. I know that she hadn't posted there in a long time. So you can see that she's making a lot of career moves, but her commentary on her presence in the Joe Budden podcast wouldn't stop there. She also said people are not going to try to F her. That's why she will integrate better on the Joe Budden podcast.
They feel like I'll do better because I'm ugly and they won't try to.
What? Yo, for one.
Now, I found that quite disturbing because she's basically implying that that's what happened to Melyssa Ford. And for Melyssa Ford to have disappeared and Mona to comment in this way was quite honestly very crazy. She is giving insight into why she thinks Melyssa Ford wasn't successful on the show. And for her to lean towards that, probably not a good thing. Like she also said that she don't really watch the podcast. So that means that she's just assuming this off of not even knowing what Melyssa Ford's dynamic is on the show. And if I was Joe, I'd be looking at, man, you don't want to protect your co-host? You can't be putting that out there because then it looks like somebody from the inside believes that Melyssa Ford was the victim of some type of sexual harassment and everybody on the show wanted to sleep with her. Like, I don't think everybody on the show was trying to smash Melyssa Ford. I do think there was someone, but I don't think everybody. So she kind of put the show in a bad spot, made the show seem like a patriarchal room full of testosterone, cavemen that don't know how to treat attractive women. See, that's the thing with the Joe Budden podcast is often they talk about how they be, macking and all of this other things. But the way they treat women on the podcast isn't necessarily better than how women generally get talked about in these like alpha male, red, communities. But we'll have to see if Mona walks it back. And I think that for her to just have gone on the show and take that stance wasn't the best place for her to be in. And I also noticed that she's already changing and she's already doing her best to fit in. It looks like she's getting used to getting cut off all the time. And I know that is a shock to her system because on other podcasts that she's done, even with $1 Million Worth of Game, she was able to talk indiscriminately at all times. Any type of topic she had, she could go all the way. I can tell she's trying her best, but we will have to see if she's able to do it. I think what Joe Budden should do is maybe try to put her in a scenario where she's only on a small cast, maybe just like Mona, Ice, Mark, and Joe, just to see if she's able to function better without 6, 7, 8 co-hosts. Because I think it's unfair to her type of presence to drown her voice out with so many people. And I think the reason that Joe has so many co-hosts is that he could go 3 hours. I know he likes to say he wants to give them vacation time, but I just think Joe's a big fan of making a lot of content, long episodes, and it's come at expense of the actual conversation. Sometimes you got to really give it to Rory, Maul, and Joe for back in the day. I know they only recorded twice a week, but the fact that they were able to have a 3 hour podcast most days that was full of real conversation is a testament to them. Another thing I noticed from Mona in this interview was that she was saying that she be all up in the comments reading them. Now, I wonder how long she will be able to deal with that, because on a recent episode, she was speaking about how her algorithm essentially changed and it was no longer about her and it was all just Joe Budden podcast coming across her social media timeline. And if you don't remember when Flip said that he joined the show and it was jarring for him to see how the conversation became less about him and more about Joe Budden. And that is something that is scary for people with their own backgrounds, right? Ice, Ish, they didn't have a media career. Mark, Flip, and Mona did, and they're all basically saying, yo, when I join this podcast, it feels like when I go into the public, what people know me the most for is the Joe Budden podcast. Not Flip the Network, not CNN, not Don't Call Me White Girl podcast, just being on the Joe Budden podcast. Now, it was interesting to see Mona in a different element, one where she can speak, and we'll see how the podcast reacts. Once again, the biggest takeaway from this interview was Mona saying that she got a fairly small contract from the Joe Budden podcast. What does that even mean? What does that entail? And she's only been on the show for a little bit. To start making these comments so quickly into her tenure, is you already distraught? And she also said that she's not moving to Jersey. Like, she's not even considering it. So that just goes to show you that the money ain't that serious for her, at least from her regard, to make that move. I, from watching this interview, felt like I think Mona kind of enjoys being on the show, but I do think there's already a little bit of regret that's seeping in. And I think that regret is that she is losing the ability to take control. Her voice has been stifled a little bit. And I don't think she ever thought she would be back in that position. She even says in this interview, like, when things started to get serious, she almost decided to walk away. But the Joe Budden podcast forced the issue. And I even had DMs from some of the supporters of the channel telling me, like, yo, they went to see her perform, and when she announced it, she didn't really seem like she was excited to be part of the Joe Budden podcast. And that's rare because so many people are trying to get on that show. I don't know, but I for sure know that there's probably mad people that are hitting Joe like, yo, give me a shot. It could be people in the industry. It could also be a lot of the friends of the pod, people from Joe Budden's past. Ashley Witherspoon. Remember Ashley? I'm sure she would be up there talking different than Mona. And that's another thing Joe said. Sasha's coming back. So initially, I thought Sasha was just some type of temporary Patreon person, but she's angling to really be on that pod. And there's times when I think, how long is Mona going to be on this show? I do really enjoy her. I've said this before. So far, I think so good. But maybe her not fitting in is more in her head than the Joe Budden podcast. But let me know what you think about Mona's comments with regards to the contract talk. Let me know if you believe that she made a mistake by saying she's probably going to work on the show because she's uglier than Melyssa Ford and nobody is going to try to smash, even though I don't think that's how that logic works. When people work together, anything can go down regardless of how someone looks, especially in testosterone-fueled environments like the Joe Budden podcast. Who knows? Mona might hook up with somebody. Be careful, y'all. With that said, follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. Follow me on Patreon. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.